Well, as you can see on your screen right there, President Joe Biden officially sworn in as the 46th president of the United States today.
And of course, that means President Trump left the White House. He did so this morning, heading to Florida at around 8 a.m. And to talk about what his next steps are, constitutional law professor Michael McDaniel is live with us now. Good to see you again, sir. The first question we have for you is, as a president leaves office, what do they do next, and how do they kind of decide what they do in life from here on out?
Well, that's a broad question. So if I'm off topic, rein me back in. But for example, there are certain benefits that a president has, and they are not as extensive as people might think. For example, President Trump would not be entitled to a pension because he just simply was not in federal service long enough. To receive the pension, you have to have been in federal service for at least 5 years. So that would be 4 years term plus some other position. So he doesn't have that. He will have an extensive travel budget. He will have the right to set up his own library. He has a right to maintain an office for a period of time, for an extensive period of time at taxpayer expense. But it is going to be sort of unique to each president as to how they spend their time after office.
All right, fair enough. And Professor, of course, they've been living in the White House for the past 4 years, so that comes with a lot of stuff. So how is all that handled? Who moves and helps with this transition with the physical aspect of just really changing houses?
Right. There's sort of two issues here. The first is sort of the household goods, and those things which are private property will be moved by the GSA or other federal agencies to where designated. And that's, as I understand, occurring with being moved to Mar-a-Lago, although there's some question as to whether he can reside permanently at Mar-a-Lago under Florida law if it's a club. The second one, though, which is the interesting one for, I think, lawyers, historians, and others, is that the presidential papers, by law, since 1978, belong to the public, not to the president. So there is an ongoing duty for every White House to preserve the presidential papers and to make those available. And then there is a relationship between the president and his staff, or the former president and his staff, and the National Archivist, who will decide what will belong in the presidential library and what may not. But none of the papers can be disposed of by the president without some agreement as to what might be considered presidential, which have historical or evidentiary or informational value for future generations to look at. Those presidential papers that are classified, we may not see for 25 years, but they are still there and they will still be available in the future for scholars and historians.
And let me ask you one more question, Professor. Obviously, there was a lot of animosity between the two campaigns. It was a very tumultuous campaign season, and that may still exist. But are there going to be things that could be barriers for now President Biden in terms of picking up the torch and running with it? Because, quite simply, these were not two men who had a good relationship. So will that hinder his ability to pick up the torch and run with it right away?
If there has been any hindrance, I think it was the reluctance, even the ordering by President Trump not to engage with the transition team. The whole point of having a transition team is so that we have a government that's ready to hit the ground today, to make progress today. I think in that regard, we should consider ourselves lucky that we've got a president with years of public service and who has a team with years of public service. So they have some idea how to do the job right from the outset. But if there's been any hindrance, it's because there just wasn't enough communication between, for example, the incoming team at the Pentagon, at DOD, and the outgoing team.
All right, Professor Michael McDaniel, a constitutional law expert and a brigadier general with the Michigan National Guard. We appreciate your time. Thank you for helping us out with really everything this campaign season. We've appreciated your insight.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.